When you cut off a woman you love, she will never see you the same again. This isn't always about anger, revenge, or bitterness. It's deeper and quieter than that. It's about a shift in her perception of you, a change that runs so deep it alters the way her heart responds to your name. The woman who once looked at you with eyes full of belief will now look through you with a clarity born of disappointment. This change doesn't happen all at once, and it might not even be visible at first, but it's permanent. In the beginning, she may still try to understand. She may replay conversations, reread old messages, and try to find meaning in your silence. She'll consider your pain, your circumstances, even your fears. Because when a woman loves, she looks beyond your actions and into your intentions. She assumes you're just struggling, and she wants to give you the grace to figure it out. She tells herself, you'll come back, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. She waits, not because she's weak, but because her love is rooted in hope. She believes in what you had, and belief for a woman in love is not easily undone. But days pass, then weeks, and your silence becomes louder than any apology you could offer. She starts to notice what's missing more than what was once there. Her mind, once full of memories of your laughter and your touch, becomes a battleground of questions and self-doubt. She wonders if she imagined the connection. She wonders if she was too much or not enough. You think you just needed space, but what you gave her was abandonment. There's a difference between needing time to heal and walking away without explanation. You might not have meant to hurt her, but intentions don't erase outcomes. As she sits in the silence you created, something begins to shift in her. She stops romanticizing the version of you she fell for and starts seeing the version that left. The fantasy fades and the reality begins to take shape. You were once the person who made her feel safe. Now you're the reason she questions her ability to trust. You were her comfort zone. Now you're the lesson she never wanted to learn. That shift, subtle at first, grows each day. And eventually, it reaches her heart. The next time she thinks of you, it will no longer be with a soft smile, but with quiet resolve. She won't hate you. She may even still care about you. But she won't see you as the man who held her heart. She'll see you as the man who dropped it. Not necessarily with cruelty, but with carelessness. And carelessness cuts just as deep. When you cut her off, what you really cut was the thread of safety she felt in your love. And no apology, no gesture can restore that thread to what it was. Eventually, she'll stop checking her phone. She'll stop hoping for your name to pop up on her screen. She'll stop wondering what she did wrong and start realizing what she deserved. That realization, powerful and painful, will reshape how she sees not just you, but herself. She'll come to understand that love should never feel like waiting at a closed door, and that understanding will close the chapter you once shared. You may come back. You may realize what you lost. You may send a message, make a call, show up at her door, but the woman who opens that door will not be the same woman who once waited behind it. Her eyes won't light up the same way. Her heart won't leap the same way. She may still be kind, still be gracious, but the part of her that once saw forever in you will be gone. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. Because a woman who has been cut off without reason or warning learns to protect herself. She learns that sometimes love isn't enough. That sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who teach us the most painful lesson. And that lesson becomes a boundary. You might see it as distance or even coldness, but it's really just wisdom wrapped in self-preservation. You see, when a woman loves, she gives deeply. She lets you in. She shares her world with you. So when you vanish, it's not just your presence she misses. It's the space you once filled that now feels hollow. And that hollow space echoes. It speaks to her late at night. It whispers doubts into her mind, and yet over time, it also teaches her. It teaches her to fill that space with something stronger, herself. By the time you regret your silence, she will have grown from it. She'll have found strength in the very place you left her broken. And she won't be waiting for you to notice. She'll be too busy rebuilding what you tried to quietly tear down. That kind of healing doesn't come with anger. It comes with clarity. And that clarity changes everything. You might think she's being cold when she doesn't respond the way she used to. You might feel confused when her affection has cooled. You might wonder how she could move on so easily. But what you're really witnessing is the result of your own actions. You asked her, without words, to learn to live without you. And now that she has, you can't unteach that lesson. She will never see you the same because her mind may forgive, but her soul remembers what it felt like to be left in the dark, and that memory becomes a filter through which she sees you. You might still be the man who once held her heart, but you'll never again be the man she trusted it with. This change isn't punishment, it's protection. It's a way of honoring the love she once gave and the pain she endured when that love was left unreturned. She knows now that love without consistency is a liability, that words without presence are hollow, that affection without effort is fleeting. And so she walks away, not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. In the end, what you cut off wasn't just a relationship. It was the version of her that believed you'd never walk away. That version of her is gone. Not because she stopped loving, but because she started learning. And what she learned was that any man who truly loves a woman doesn't disappear when it's hard. He stays, he communicates, he fights for the connection. He doesn't leave her questioning her worth in silence. So when you cut her off, even if you didn't mean to hurt her, even if you thought it was temporary, even if you plan to come back, you must understand that she will never see you the same again. You altered her love, her trust, and her view of you. And no matter how sincere your return may be, some shifts can't be undone. That's not her punishing you. That's her protecting the woman she became after you left. A woman who loves you with her whole heart gives without keeping score. Her love is generous, instinctive, and nurturing. She doesn't wait to be asked. She offers. She comforts. She shows up for you. Not because she expects anything in return, but because that's how she loves. It comes naturally to her. When you needed reassurance, she gave it. When you were distant, she leaned in. When life got heavy, she carried the weight with you. But when you cut her off, something fundamental breaks. And after that, she will never beg for what she once gave so freely. At first, she may not fully understand what's happening. She may feel stunned, even disoriented. A woman like that, one who gives her love without conditions, doesn't easily recognize abandonment, especially when it comes from someone she trusts. She might think you just need space, that you're sorting through something, that this is just a temporary silence. Her instinct is to wait, to offer patience. She holds on to the belief that love means riding through the storm together. She gives you the benefit of the doubt because that's what people do when they care deeply. But with time, the silence becomes too loud to ignore. The waiting shifts from hopeful to exhausting, and the truth begins to sink in. You've removed yourself from her life without an explanation, without closure, without even the courtesy of acknowledging her pain. For a woman who gave selflessly, that absence doesn't just hurt, it feels like betrayal. She starts to see the imbalance. She remembers how many times she checked in when you were quiet, how often she reassured you when you doubted yourself, how consistently she showed love even when you didn't know how to receive it. She sees that she made space for your imperfections, for your growing pains, for your emotional struggles. And now, as she sits in silence, she realizes none of that was ever truly reciprocated. Not in action, not in presence, not in effort. Still, she doesn't beg. She might want to. There may be moments when the urge is overwhelming to send that message, to ask what went wrong, to plead for answers, for closure, for a sliver of the love she once felt so sure of. But something holds her back, her dignity, her self-respect, the quiet knowledge that love should never have to be begged for. You may have mistaken her silence for indifference. You may have thought she moved on easily or that she never really cared. But don't confuse her silence with a lack of feeling. Silence for her is strength. It's the only power she has left when the man she trusted takes away her voice in the relationship. It's her way of saying, I loved you enough to give you everything, but I will not degrade myself by asking you to return it. Because when a woman truly loves and is then pushed away, she doesn't resort to begging. She retreats into herself. She chooses self-preservation over humiliation. She lets the heartbreak burn quietly rather than setting herself on fire to light a connection that you've already let go of. What you don't see are the battles she fights alone, the tears she sheds in the middle of the night, the dreams she has to let go of, the version of her future that included you and now has to be rewritten. You don't see the strength it takes to resist the temptation to chase what she once thought was unbreakable. You don't see the restraint it takes not to respond when her heart wants to scream. But she does it not because she's cold, not because she doesn't feel, but because she values herself enough not to fight for someone who isn't willing to meet her halfway. And that's a tragedy you may never understand. She was willing to give you everything. She would have stood by you through the worst of storms if only you had let her, if only you had stayed, if only you had chosen communication over disappearance, effort over avoidance. But you didn't. And now the woman who once loved you freely and fiercely has had to choose herself, not out of ego, but out of survival. She doesn't beg because she knows that begging doesn't bring back love. It only prolongs pain. She knows that any affection returned after pleading is not love, but pity. And she refuses to live on scraps. Her heart, once wide open, now closes gently. Not with bitterness, but with wisdom. She learns that people who truly care don't leave her guessing. They don't disappear in silence. They don't punish her with distance. They don't wait for her to fall apart to acknowledge her value. So she holds her head high, even when her heart aches. She pours her energy into healing, into growth, into remembering who she was before the hurt. And in that process, she finds something stronger than the love she lost, her own worth. She sees that she never needed to beg because the kind of love she deserves won't require it. You might come back one day, expecting her to be where you left her, loving, waiting, ready, but she won't be. The woman who once would have fought to keep you has now fought to find herself, and that battle changed her. She doesn't carry resentment, but she carries the memory of how easily you let her go, of how her love was met with silence, of how she had to stitch herself back together when you vanished. And she knows now, deep in her soul, that real love doesn't abandon you, that someone who truly values her presence won't risk losing it, that she is not here to prove her worth to someone who couldn't see it from the start. You may remember her as the woman who loved you unconditionally, the one who laughed at your jokes, supported your dreams, stood by your side. But what you'll never see again is that same version of her reaching out for you. She's not that woman anymore. She has evolved. And that evolution came at a cost you may never fully grasp. She will give again. She will love again. But it will be different, wiser, more selective. She now understands that love without reciprocity is not love at all, that showing up for someone who won't meet you halfway is a form of self-abandonment, and she's done abandoning herself for anyone. She walks away, not because she stopped loving you, but because she started loving herself more. And that love, the one she gives to herself now, is something no silence, no rejection, no man can ever take from her again. You may look back and wonder why she didn't fight harder, why she didn't chase you, call you, beg you to stay. But what you'll never realize is that the act of not begging, not chasing, was the hardest and most courageous thing she ever did. Because she loved you deeply, wholeheartedly. But when faced with silence, she chose dignity over desperation. And that choice, though it cost her the future she once envisioned with you, gave her back her power. And so she lets go. With grace, with pain, with clarity. She will never again ask for what she knows should be given freely. She will never again shrink herself to fit into someone's silence. She will never again beg for love, not because she's bitter, not because she's heartless, but because she finally understands that real love doesn't make you plead for it. It meets you where you are, holds your hand, and stays.